Okay, good morning, everyone. It is 8:03 a.m. and I'm calling this meeting of the Maple Broadband Executive Committee to order for January 23rd, 2025. I hope that everyone had good and restful holiday and is enjoying this new year so far. So the first item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
Second.
I'd like to suggest an amendment to the agenda, move under item 6A, under net updates, network management agreement, suggest that we move that discussion under item 6, executive session.
Oops, and you're right. Updates should be 8 and not 6. Okay, so I'll move NMA to 6D under executive session.
Good.
Okay. Any other suggested changes? Okay. All in favor of approving the agenda as modified, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. We have an agenda. Next up is approval of the minutes from December 19th.
So moved. Moved as submitted.
Second? Okay, any discussion? All right, all in favor of approving the minutes as presented, raise your hand or say aye. Okay, that's unanimous. Public comments. Would anyone like to make a public comment? All right, hearing none. Chair reports.
I'll make it brief. I have a hard stop, and I'm going to jump off this call no later than 9:30. It might be closer to 9, but so I will leave that as my chair report, since I want to leave as much time as possible, especially during the executive session.
Okay, great. So I'll give my executive director reports. Part of my executive director report I will give in executive session, because if you recall, one of the outstanding items from last year was guidance around being in a BEAD silent period. And so I did finally get some advice from VCBB, and what they essentially said is that while we could talk in general terms about the fact that we intend to bid, any details should be kept in executive session out of an abundance of caution. So going forward, everything BEAD related will be in executive session. So I'll give my BEAD update there. So one of the first things to remind everyone is my travel schedule. So I'm obviously still in South Africa, and we'll be flying out of here Monday night, South Africa time, and landing in New York about 6:30 in the morning. And so we'll be on a train that afternoon. So I'll be back in the States and working from the train on Tuesday. And then Wednesday we have the Vakuda. We have a couple we're testifying in front of 2 different committees at the legislature for Vakuda. So we have the new House Environment. Oh no, it's not Environment. It's the new House committee that holds the telecoms portfolio, and then Senate Finance, and also meeting with the Rural Caucus at 8 a.m. And due to a scheduling snafu, Vakuda had actually booked the card room, which is that room by the cafeteria, for February 4th. So there's another day on February 4th when I'm going to be going up there to man the card room table and be there to do a Q&A. And then there's also going to be a resolution in the House that day. So that's when most of the other Vakuda members. It's going to be a very small group that goes up on the Wednesday, and then a larger group on the following Tuesday. So if anyone is interested in going to Montpelier and joining us on Tuesday, the 4th of February, you're more than welcome. So that's my travel schedule.
What is the resolution that they'll be working on?
It's still being drafted now. There's been a resolution each of the last 2 years, essentially just acknowledging the role of communications union districts and thanking people and volunteers. You know, one of those sorts of feel-good things that doesn't really. Anyway, you get the idea. Okay, so the next thing is we have. Okay, so I've been So as you know, we have a financial update later on the audits, but one of the outstanding items in the audit is going through all of the materials invoices from 2022 and 2023 and categorizing them in terms of where those materials eventually went in order to give to our auditor in the format that she wants it, the asset capitalization. So I've downloaded those and I'm working on compiling them. I don't think I'm going to finish before I'm back in the States, but that's obviously a top priority because that's the final thing we need to get to Darlene in order that Darlene can do her bits and we can finally get that audit finished. So I know that that's on the agenda further ahead, but wanted to mention that because that's one of my key tasks. Another small but important task is that our twice a year FCC BDC, which is broadband data collection updates, I've been working on those between Waitsfield and Mission Broadband. So that's just a reminder for those of you not familiar, we have to report to FCC biannually areas where we have coverage, so what our current coverage area is and what speeds we have, and then also by census block, how many subscribers we have and what their speed is. So working on that. And then the final thing is we have Middlebury College has again kindly agreed to sponsor a MidWorks intern for us this summer. So I'm going to be working on the scope and posting that in the next couple of days. So that's it for the executive director report in public session. Does anyone have any questions for me? Jeff.
I just want to make sure, honing in on the audit issue, that whatever we've learned, if we're going back to recharacterize materials invoices from 22 to 23, that all that is moving forward. So as a materials invoice comes in today, it's coded in a way that there'll be no more going back, like we know what they want. Is that correct?
Well, it's a little bit of a different situation because a lot of the most relevant invoices were from our phase 1A when we bought a lot more nuts and bolts and detailed things. And much of that I already did. And most of the materials that we have are from Syracuse. So going forward, it's a little bit different. But in general, when we get a Syracuse invoice or Syracuse invoices are the main ones, then the invoice is specific to the serving area. So then the only thing we have to keep track of is what date the serving area goes live. Because when we get an invoice in, we don't necessarily know yet what date things have gone live. But I think to answer your main question, some of the challenges here last year was that we were doing it for the first time. And then some of the other challenges were that the way that we were doing materials wasn't done in the way that the auditor wanted to see it. But now that we understand that, it's essentially just a matter of replicating. Okay, Lynn, do you have anything you want to add to that? I know that this audit is not this is still size, but if you wanted to add anything.
Yeah, so I'm echoing Jeff about, sort of staying on top. It's not such a big deal. And I saw Darlene yesterday and had just asked, like, what's up with the audit? And it sounds like, Ellie, a lot of the work, is sitting with you, and it sounds completely onerous to me, but it sounds like you're making headway. And and I am interested at some point, and we'll talk about it when you're back, but I'm interested in what Bonnie was asking for, just to see, because maybe it's articulated in a written document, but just to be kind of ready, because we're going to jump into another audit like immediately.
Yep,
right?
Exactly.
So
yeah, and actually to be clear, I actually finished all the 2022 materials last year already and sent them through to Darlene. So it's 23 that I'm working on now.
Okay, terrific. So I don't know enough to even ask intelligent questions here, but I do want to get up to speed so I can provide support wherever, to Darlene, to you, and to understand if there's a conversation with Bonnie, that Bonnie doesn't have to spend time bringing me up to speed. Yeah.
Yep,
anyway,
that sounds good.
Yeah, thank you.
That makes good sense. Okay. All right. So if there's nothing else, then Steve, if you would make the motion to take us into executive session.
I move to find that premature general public knowledge regarding Maple Broadband's business strategy would clearly place us at a substantial disadvantage because it risks disclosure of our activities if they were to be communicated to the public. Is there a second? Excellent, thank you. I move that we enter into executive session to discuss business strategy under Title I, Section 313, subsection A of the Vermont statutes. Is there a second? We've got a second. Thanks, everyone. I guess we're in executive session.
Okay, stopping the recording.